Okay, you got this. It's not cringe. It's not cringe. You got this. You got this. It's not cringe. Okay. Hi guys. Hi guys. Welcome. My name is Mira and I'm 22 and I am a self-taught sewing enthusiast. Wow, that is a mouthful. Basically, the day before lockdown, I went out and bulk bought loads of fabrics in anticipation to being stuck at home forever. Call me psychic. And all that I have left now is some red cotton and red mesh, and I've kind of been saving it because I want to make something amazing with it, and also because I know that if I use it up I'll literally have nothing to do. Nothing. We're now in like 158th week of lockdown and I've still not used it up, so I think I'm just gonna go for it and use it. The only problem is I've literally got nowhere to go, and like the thought of me just wearing clothes at home when I could be in my PJs just seems ridiculous. But that's why I'm gonna do it. In fact, I'm not going to make any item of clothing. I'm going to make a ball gown so that when lockdown's over, I can just enter Nando's in style. I cannot wait. On a more serious note, I do have a friend's wedding coming up soon, and why be a slave to commercialism and buy a dress online when I can just make one myself? Today's video is to show you how I went from this to this in just a few days. And I hope you guys learned something. If not, just watch and enjoy.
So I started off by drawing up a few designs. Obviously, every design had to have some sort of puffy sleeve, and for someone who loves them, I certainly can't draw them. They all ended up looking like some sort of growth or disproportionate bicep coming out of the arm. I couldn't decide which design I wanted to do because I am the most indecisive individual in the world. So in the end, I asked all my followers on Instagram and the first design won. So I don't know in what world I thought I was talented enough to just start pinning the fabric straight away onto the mannequin. I kind of just hoped that the shape of the dress I wanted would come through, but it didn't. I just saw loads of Instagram clips do it and I thought I could do it too, but I'm definitely not at that stage yet. I quickly realised I had no idea what I was doing, and I went back and I just started from scratch. You're probably thinking why starting from scratch means reading the newspaper about the new stillness of time we're living in. It doesn't. I just use newspaper as pattern paper because it's easy to draw on, pin, and we have loads lying around in the house that you'll never catch me reading. I have a standard bodice pattern piece that I made before and I traced around it to give me a starting point. I then extended the shoulder line on one side to give me excess material for draping, and I drew a diagonal line from the neckline to the other armpit so that I can get the one shoulder look. I cut out my new markings so that I have a new pattern that looks a little bit like this, which I'm now pinning onto the mannequin. Because I want this dress to be quite fitted on the top half, I had to try and add darts in, which for some reason I was really struggling with. I then used more newspapers to make the skirt bit of the dress and cut a slit, which will be where I differentiate between the cotton and the mesh. I also stood on my tippy toes as if I were in heels and adjusted the height of the mannequin so that I could make sure I get the length of the dress just right. Oh yeah, when I was doing my makeup for this video, I tried out this new product and I was really feeling my makeup. So I had a photo shoot with my mannequin because I completely forgot how to have normal social interactions. Anyway, back to this. So this is kind of what the dress is going to look like in newspaper. Not gonna lie, I love this newspaper look, and if it was socially acceptable, I would wear it. But forget social standards, English weather defo will not permit this. One drop of rain on this and, well, you can guess what will happen. Now that I'm happy with the way it looks, I sellotaped all the pieces together. I'm going crazy with the sellotape because when I was younger, my dad would never let me use it. He'd always tell me I'm wasting it. I remember whenever I used to have to wrap presents or have art projects, I'd have to use the sellotape in secret, unraveling it a tiny bit at a time so that he can't hear. And I legit don't know why. It's not like we couldn't find or afford sellotape, he just had some obsessive, overprotective feeling over it. I traced out my new pattern on more newspaper so that I could have a neater copy. Honestly, this step was so unnecessary, but like, it meant I could use more sellotape, which obviously I've been deprived of for so many years. I then put the newly made front and back patterns onto my mannequin and made any changes necessary, such as actually closing up the armhole. I also added the mesh and zip on so that I could get a better idea of what it would look like all together. Now it's finally time to actually use the red fabric. I folded the red cotton in half and started cutting around one of the pattern pieces, seeing as both the front and the back were the same pattern. I then pinned the front and back fabrics onto the mannequin, adding in the darts, draping and zip. I used a white pencil, or better still if you have a chalk, to draw in the darts. The darts are a bit fiddly to do freehand, so don't get disheartened if you don't get it straight away. In hindsight, I would have marked where the darts were on the pattern piece so that I can transfer it straight away onto the fabric, but we live and we learn. I then sewed in the darts first using a straight stitch. Having done the darts and putting the dress back onto the mannequin, I decided against the pleating/draping idea at the shoulders because the cotton just wasn't flowy enough for the look I wanted. I quickly steamed the dress whilst it was on the mannequin. Then I sewed the front and back pieces together, right sides facing each other, and added an invisible zip to the side with no sleeves. I also added my mesh to join the slits of the dress so that I had the completed base.
Okay, so this is what I've got so far. I've just basically done the base. I've got the netting on this side, which isn't really obvious on camera, but it is a lot more obvious in real life. I've still got the sleeves to do. Add frills in places, just to give it a little bit of a something. And also there's quite a bit of altering to do because the mannequin has a lot wider hips than I do. I'm more of a log.
Girl, before we go any further, there is nothing wrong with looking like a log. It's all about self-love, body confidence, and all that jazz.
So yeah, there's a bit of altering that I've got to do.
As you can tell from the preview of the dress at the beginning, I didn't stick with my original puffy sleeve design, but I thought I'd show you anyway how to make it just in case you wanted to try and probably succeed, unlike myself. To make the puffy sleeve, I used the balloon sleeve pattern I had already made before. If you don't have one, you can just use a normal sleeve pattern and spread out the top kinda. Because I only wanted the top of the sleeve to be puffy, I copied out the bulge at the top from the balloon sleeve pattern and cut it out from the fabric, then used a normal sleeve pattern for the rest of the sleeve. I sewed a straight stitch around the curvature of the bulge, making sure I didn't reverse stitch at the beginning or the end, so that I could gather it afterwards. I then did the same again, sewing a straight stitch about 1 inch from the bottom of the bulge and gathered that, so I've made something that looks a bit like a shower cap, but isn't a shower cap.
She no runner, she's so calm, like Rihanna, like Rihanna, like Rihanna, like Rihanna, like Rihanna.
Okay, fine, nothing like Rihanna, but I think it's just because of the eye makeup. Anyway, I then sewed on the bottom half of the sleeve to the puffy bit and sewed the sleeve to the dress. I thought I had a recording of this bit, but I'm so technologically challenged and forgot to press record. That was a terrible explanation, sorry about that, but not to worry because I changed the sleeves anyway, and you'll see in a second why.
So I've just done the sleeves and I've popped it onto my good friend.
Okay, so at this point during editing, I realised that these clips are pretty much inaudible because I forgot to pause my background music, but I said something along the lines of, I made the puff too big and there's a massive difference between the puff and the sleeve and I need to find a way to merge it all together so it's not this dramatic. Usually I love drama, but this looks a bit weird, so I'm going to have to find a way to fix this. But I'm really struggling because the mannequin doesn't have an arm, so I need to make an arm somehow. I just don't know how. I have no idea why I made fun of my own voice. It just seemed appropriate because I did a really silly thing. And I also talk really slowly in real life, so it makes it hella hard to do a voiceover. So I made a makeshift arm using 2 snooker poles, which I can't lie didn't really help. But to get rid of this extra limb that's coming out of the dress, I tried to hand sew it down, but something really wasn't sitting well with me and I just wasn't loving the look of the sleeve with the rest of the dress or on me.
Okay, so I'm going to get rid of the sleeves now. So nervous because there's no going back. Oh.
As I was cutting, I knew I wanted the new replacement sleeves to be flowy, maybe made with the same mesh material. The only problem was I had no mesh left, so it meant I would have to sacrifice some of the trail that was on the dress. Was I prepared to do that? Well, yeah, obviously, otherwise the picture at the beginning would have looked so different. So I made this sleeve the same way I'd make a full circle skirt. I hate maths, so I'm going to be so bad explaining this, but essentially to do this, you want to draw 2 circles on your pattern paper or newspaper. The inside circle has a circumference which is the same as the circumference of your armhole. I then drew another circle around it with a radius 9 inches greater than the radius of the smaller circle on one half and 4 inches greater on the other half, so that it looked like a lopsided circle. Trust me, if this was confusing enough for you, I honestly was just as confused trying to work this out. But what I mean is something like this. I then cut up some of the mesh from the front of the trail so that I can use it for the sleeve. This was probably for the best anyway because I would have tripped up on it so much. I'm so glad I changed the sleeve. I can already tell this is going to look so much better and I'm just holding it up with my hand. I'm going to go sew this on and show you what it looks like afterwards. I sewed the sleeve on so that the 9-inch bit was on the top and the 4-inch bit was on the bottom, if that makes any sense at all. But I'm so gassed because you can already tell that this looks so much better than the embellishment of the sleeve I had earlier. So, like I said before, I wanted to add a little something to the dress to give it a bit more of a wow factor. Something like ruffles, nice and easy and simple, but very effective. So I've just been playing around with newspaper, and I'm quite liking the ruffles on the edge between the cotton and the mesh. And I asked my friends and they've given me the go ahead because I can't make any decisions by myself. So I need my creative directors to help me out. And they said that they liked it as well. So we changed the design a lot from what I'd originally planned, but I think it's all for the better. So yeah. I just realised that I start every recording with so. It's like I've got no other knowledge of connected words. Anyway, I started off the next day by just giving the dress a quick press. When ironing, I have to use a scrap material on top because somehow I always manage to burn my clothes. Also, I don't know if you've noticed, but throughout the project my room just gets messier and messier. To make the ruffles, I did that circle thing again, but this time I didn't have to worry about working out any circumferences or maths. I just made the circles as big as I could and cut around it and opened it up to make the ruffles. I did one for the front and one for the back. So this is the dress at the moment. Excuse the mess in the background, I'm such a messy worker, but I'll tidy it up later. I'm so glad I added the frills. It's really given the dress a bit of something. So yeah, all that's got left to do now is to hem the dress and do a few alterations so that it fits me a little bit better and just give the dress a whole press because it's a bit wrinkly right now. I quickly hemmed the dress. Well, not quickly, there was a reason I did do it off camera because of the amount of breakdowns I had over hemming and altering. But after hemming, I added a few finishing touches and hand sewed a couple of poppers so that I could tie up the mesh trail for dancing and walking purposes, and then it could be let loose for photos. Now that's what I call forward planning.
So that's the end of my first YouTube video. Thank you guys for watching and seeing it through to the end. If you like what you saw, just give it a thumbs up. If you don't like what you saw, give it a thumbs up anyway for the moral support. If you've got any thoughts or feedback or suggestions, leave it in the comment section below. I would love to hear what you've got to say. And don't forget to subscribe so you can see more videos like this in the future. And if you want to see any more of my creations or designs, then follow me on Instagram at madeby.mira, somewhere on this screen. So yeah, thanks guys, bye!